Welcome back to CrimePod Castle, everyone, for episode 65 of our Unsolved Mystery series.
Oh, yeah.
And today we're diving into a case that's haunted investigators and the city of Jaipur for over a decade. The murder of Pratibha Sharma.
It's a case that really, I think, sums up the complexities of crime solving.
Yeah.
You've got a young woman with so much promise, seemingly no enemies, brutally murdered in a place she should have felt safe.
Right.
Her own apartment complex.
And it's not like we're talking about some remote, desolate location.
No.
This happened in a bustling city.
Yeah.
And yet the killer vanished without a trace.
That's true.
It makes you wonder, how could something so horrific happen, seemingly out of the blue, and then just go cold?
Well, that's what we're here to unpack.
Yeah.
Why don't we start by just setting the scene a little bit?
Okay.
April 24th, 2012, Pratibha Sharma, a successful 28-year-old software engineer, is returning home from work late at night.
Okay.
She parks in the dimly lit parking lot of her apartment complex.
Okay, so picture this dimly lit parking lot, probably quiet at that hour. Yeah. What do we know about the actual attack?
Right.
Did anyone witness what happened?
So this is one of the most frustrating parts of the case.
Okay.
The witness accounts are very vague.
Okay.
Some neighbors reported hearing screams,
Oh, wow.
but nobody actually saw the attack.
Okay.
A few people described seeing a man running from the scene,
Yeah.
but descriptions were so vague and contradictory,
Right.
they weren't much help.
So right from the start, the police are dealing with a lack of clear eyewitness testimony.
Yeah.
What about security footage?
Sure.
Was there anything from the apartment complex's cameras?
There was CCTV footage.
Okay.
Yes, but the quality was so poor that it was impossible to make out any identifying features
Oh, gosh.
of the attacker.
Yeah.
This is a common problem,
Right.
especially back in 2012.
Yeah.
Technology has come a long way since then.
Of course, yeah.
But back then, grainy footage, like that was more of a hindrance than a help.
I bet that was a huge blow to the investigation. You'd think security footage in an apartment complex would be a slam dunk for solving a crime like this.
Yeah, you would think so, but reality is far more complicated.
Yeah.
Lighting, camera angles, resolution, all of these factors can make a huge difference in the usefulness of CCTV footage.
Right.
And even if you can make out a suspect actually identifying them,
Yeah.
it's a whole other challenge.
It's a whole other thing.
Entirely.
So no clear witnesses, unusable security footage.
Yeah.
It sounds like the investigation was hitting dead ends right from the get-go.
It really does.
But surely they had something to go on, right?
Well,
There had to be some clues at the crime scene itself.
there were clues, but they only deepened the mystery.
Okay.
Pratibha's bag was missing,
Oh.
which initially made robbery seem like the obvious motive.
Right.
But here's where it gets interesting.
Okay.
Her phone and other valuables, things that would be easy to grab and sell, were left untouched right next to her body.
Okay, now that's strange. Why take the bag but leave behind the valuables?
Yeah.
It doesn't really make sense for a typical robbery, does it?
Exactly. It's that inconsistency that makes the robbery theory so shaky.
Right.
It's possible, of course, that the attacker panicked and fled before taking everything,
Yeah.
but it's not the most convincing explanation.
It almost feels like whoever did this wanted to make it look like a robbery,
Yeah,
but didn't quite think it through,
Right.
or maybe they were interrupted.
maybe.
It's all very confusing.
It is.
So if robbery wasn't the motive,
Right.
what were the other possibilities the police were considering?
Well, with the robbery angle looking less likely,
Uh-huh.
the focus shifted to Pratibha's personal life.
Okay.
Was there someone who had a grudge against her?
Okay.
Someone who wanted her dead?
So did they uncover any dark secrets in Pratibha's life?
Right?
Any enemies or people she'd crossed?
That's the thing. Everyone they interviewed, colleagues, friends, family, all described her as a kind, well-liked person. It seemed like she genuinely didn't have any enemies.
Yeah.
She was a young woman with a bright future, recently promoted at work,
Right.
even had dreams of studying abroad.
It's awful.
Why would anyone want to hurt someone like that?
It just adds to the tragedy of it all, doesn't it?
It does.
This promising life cut short for seemingly no reason.
Yeah,
But hold on, you said seemingly.
right.
Does that mean there were some whispers? Some hints of trouble in Pratibha's life?
Well, there weren't any glaring red flags, but there was one detail that investigators couldn't quite shake.
Okay.
Apparently, Pratibha had confided in a few colleagues that she felt like someone was following her
Oh, gosh.
in the weeks leading up to the murder.
Wait, so she thought she was being stalked?
Yeah.
That's chilling. Did she ever report it to the police?
She didn't file a formal report,
Oh.
which isn't uncommon in these situations.
Right.
Sometimes people dismiss those feelings as paranoia,
Right.
or they're afraid of overreacting.
Yeah.
But think about it, if someone was indeed stalking Pratibha, it would explain the targeted nature of the attack.
Yeah.
And the fact that the killer seemed to know her routine.
It makes you wonder if the police had taken those concerns more seriously.
Right.
Could they have prevented the tragedy?
Yeah.
Maybe increased patrols around her apartment complex, or even assigned her a temporary security detail?
Hindsight's always 20/20.
Right.
But it's a question that lingers, especially for Pratibha's family and friends.
Yeah, of course.
They've been vocal over the years, criticizing the initial investigation for not taking the stalking claims seriously enough.
It's understandable you'd be left with so many what-ifs.
Yeah.
But even if we assume there was a stalker, it doesn't automatically solve the case.
No, it doesn't.
How do you even begin to track down someone like that without any concrete leads?
That's the challenge, right?
Yeah,
Stalking cases are notoriously difficult to investigate.
I imagine.
Often there's limited physical evidence,
Right.
and the perpetrator could be anyone.
Right.
A stranger, a disgruntled acquaintance, even someone Pratibha interacted with online.
Oh, wow.
It's a huge haystack to search through.
So we have this theory of a stalker,
Yeah.
which makes sense given some of the details,
Huh.
but it's still a very slippery slope in terms of actually finding the person responsible.
For sure.
Were there any other theories the police were exploring?
Of course, they couldn't rule out the possibility of a personal vendetta,
Yeah.
even though Pratibha's loved ones insisted she didn't have any enemies.
I guess it's human nature to want a clear-cut motive.
Right.
Someone who had a reason to hate Pratibha's enough to commit such a brutal act.
Mm-hmm.
But if everyone is saying she was so well-liked,
Yeah.
where do you even begin to look for that kind of hidden animosity?
It's a puzzle.
Yeah.
And one that investigators were never able to solve.
Right.
Perhaps there was a conflict at work that went deeper than anyone realized.
Okay.
Or maybe someone harbored a resentment that stemmed from a seemingly minor incident in the past.
Yeah.
The problem is, without any concrete evidence or a confession,
Yeah.
it's all just speculation.
It's almost like investigators were stuck between these two equally perplexing possibilities.
Right.
A stalker who seemingly came out of nowhere,
Yeah.
or a personal vendetta that left no visible trace.
Exactly.
Either way, it sounds like they were chasing ghosts.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And sadly, that's where the trail goes cold.
Right.
Despite their best efforts, the police were never able to gather enough evidence to make an arrest.
Wow.
The case went cold, leaving Pratibha's loved ones with more questions than answers.
It's heartbreaking to think about. Not only did they lose Pratibha in such a horrific way,
Right.
but they were also denied the closure that comes with knowing why it happened
It's true.
and who was responsible.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the pain and frustration they must have endured over the years.
Absolutely. And that's something we need to remember when we discuss these unsolved cases.
Yeah.
Behind the headlines and the theories, there are real people
Yeah.
whose lives have been shattered,
Yeah.
who are left to pick up the pieces and try to make sense of the unthinkable.
It's a sobering reminder that these cases aren't just abstract mysteries to be debated. They represent real lives lost and the ripple effects of that loss on those left behind.
Exactly.
But shifting gears a bit, let's talk about the impact this case had on Jaipur as a whole.
Sure.
Did it change the way people viewed their safety?
Without a doubt, Pratibha's murder sent shockwaves through the city.
Really?
It shattered the illusion of safety, especially for women.
Oh, gosh.
Suddenly, even seemingly ordinary places like parking lots felt vulnerable.
Yeah.
And the fear of becoming the next victim became a very real concern.
Did this fear lead to any tangible changes?
Oh, yeah.
Were there calls for increased security measures or changes in law enforcement?
There absolutely were. In the wake of the murder, there was a lot of public pressure
Right.
for increased police presence, especially in areas frequented by women.
Okay.
Many apartment complexes upgraded their security systems, installing brighter lights in parking areas
Yeah.
and hiring additional security guards.
So it seems like Pratibha's case, while tragic in its outcome, did spark some positive changes in terms of community safety. It's a bittersweet silver lining, but a silver lining nonetheless.
Yeah, it often takes a tragedy like this to expose vulnerabilities and force people to confront the uncomfortable reality
Yeah,
that crime can happen anywhere, even in a city that's generally considered safe.
right.
But those conversations about security and vigilance are crucial.
Mhm.
They can make a real difference
Right.
in preventing future tragedies.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
And honestly, I'm left with more questions than answers.
Yeah.
It's like we've been circling this maze of theories,
Right.
each with its own dead ends and inconsistencies.
Yeah.
Do you think this case could ever be solved?
I mean, you never know.
Yeah.
Or is it destined to remain a cold case forever? New evidence could emerge.
Oh, okay.
Witnesses might come forward with fresh information,
Yeah.
or advancements in forensic technology
Right.
could shed new light on the existing evidence.
I guess there's always hope for that breakthrough moment.
Yeah.
That one piece of the puzzle that suddenly makes everything fall into place.
Mm-hmm.
But until then, it's hard not to feel a sense of frustration,
Right.
especially for Pratibha's loved ones.
Of course.
They deserve justice.
They do.
They deserve answers.
Yeah, their unwavering pursuit of justice is a testament to their love for Pratibha.
Yeah.
And it speaks to the power of memory, the refusal to let her story fade into obscurity.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that behind every unsolved case, there are families and communities,
Right.
forever marked by the loss and the unanswered questions.
And that brings us to the final and perhaps most important question of this deep dive.
Okay.
What can we as individuals and as a society learn from Pratibha's case?
Yeah.
What can we do to make our communities safer
Right.
and prevent similar tragedies from happening again?
It's a question that deserves serious reflection. I
Yeah.
think on a practical level,
Yeah.
we can advocate for better lighting in public spaces, support law enforcement initiatives that focus on crime prevention,
Uh-huh.
and even take steps to improve security in our own homes and neighborhoods.
Those are tangible actions that we can all take.
Absolutely.
But I think there's also a deeper lesson here about listening to our instincts
Right.
and taking those gut feelings seriously.
Yeah.
Pratibha confided in her colleagues about feeling like she was being followed.
Right.
What if someone had encouraged her to report it to the police?
Yeah.
What if those concerns had been taken more seriously?
You're raising a crucial point.
Yeah.
We need to create a culture where people feel comfortable reporting suspicious behavior,
Right.
where those fears are acknowledged and taken seriously.
Right.
It's about empowering individuals to speak up
Yeah.
and trusting their instincts, even if they can't fully articulate the threat.
That's a powerful message and one that I hope resonates with our listeners.
I hope so too.
It's a reminder that we all have a role to play in building safer communities,
Yeah.
starting with those small but significant acts of awareness.
Vigilance and
Ex-
support.
And perhaps by having these conversations, by remembering Pratibha's story and the lessons it holds,
Yeah.
we can move closer to a world where such senseless tragedies become less frequent
Yeah.
and where justice, even if delayed, is ultimately served.
Well said. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the unsolved murder of Pratibha Sharma. It's a case that stays with you,
It really does.
that challenges us to think critically about safety justice and the role we each play in building a better world. If you found this episode thought-provoking, don't forget to follow and subscribe to Crime Podcastle for more deep dives into the mysteries that continue to fascinate and haunt us. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and as always, keep those minds sharp